So foreign language and area studies, can you raise your hands by show of hands, say how many people are familiar with FLAS already? Okay, Brigham, I know some of you already. Okay, great. So a few of you already know or heard of the Foreign Language and Area Study Fellowship. So let me get to a little info. Sorry, is there a question? We will take Q&A at the end of the information session. So if you can hold on to your questions to the end, that would be great. So FLAS Fellowship is actually funded by Title VI grant, and that is a part of Department of Education's, and is one of the SAB session on Department of Education is International and Foreign Language Education, or also known as IFLE. And the purpose of IFLE is to train future experts in languages and area studies. So that includes, expanding access to the language learning especially for those who are historically underserved. And we also support research that are in critical war regions, languages, and issues. So FLAS Fellowship is obviously one of the programs that is run by the Title VI grant or funded by Title VI grant and run by IFLE. Before I get to the eligibility part, let me tell you about the purpose of FLAS. The purpose of FLAS is to address the need for those that needs a training in foreign language and area studies, and also to produce well-rounded experts. And we will come back to that in a bit. So who are eligible to apply for FLAS? I mean, you can obviously read the whole criteria, but in a nutshell, you have to be a US citizen or permanent resident. You also need to be a degree-seeking student here at ASU, so that can be undergraduate and graduate student as long as you're in a degree program. You also need to be eligible for ASU tuition scholarships. You can either be resident or non-resident, it doesn't matter. Also, you need to submit FAFSA for this current or upcoming academic year. So that will be FAFSA for 2022 and 2023. And you also need to prepare for a language study, an area study course for the duration of your fellowship. So the requirement for number 5 and number 6 is a little bit different for summer fellowship, which we will come back to that in a bit. And you also need to show or demonstrate high academic achievement and interest in Asia. So for summer FLAS fellowship, instead of enrolling in language course and an area study course, you will be doing an intensive language program, which is at least 140 contact hours or 120 contact hours for advanced level and 140 for intermediate level. So the fellowship awards are eligible for these languages during academic year. I also want to tell you to keep in mind that some of these languages might not be available in the upcoming year, and it may change as well. But for summer FLAS fellowship, all languages that is based in Asia will be eligible, because you can, during the FLAS fellowship, you can kind of go to different institution. You can even go to institution abroad. So if you're thinking about doing a study abroad program, then this FLAS fellowship is one of the tools that you can use to fund your study abroad program. For graduate students, the academic year's stipend and tuitions are written here, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that the living stipend for current students are $15,000 for graduate fellows, but it's increased to 20,000 starting next year. And then $18,000 for tuitions and fees. And that is up to $18,000. We do not refund you the money that is not charged by the tuition office. So only money that you will pay out of pocket or that are not covered by other scholarship for tuition will be covered by FLAS tuition award. For summer, your both graduate and undergraduate fellows are eligible for receiving $2,500 in living stipend and $5,000 for your tuitions and fees. For undergraduate students, the academic year stipend is $5,000, and you're eligible to receive up to $10,000 in tuitions and mandatory fees. That include, if you're in Barrett or if you're a Barrett student, then you have a $1,000 program fees that will be covered under FLAS tuition. Also, I want you to note that academic year FLAS fellowship are contingent upon funding availability from U.S. Department of Education. So application process, most of you are probably familiar with this already. The application will be opened on November 30th, that's end of this month. It's going to be on Tuesday. And all material will be due on Monday, February 28, 2022. You might think that that's a pretty long duration or long window, but you're going to need a lot of materials, which we will get to in a bit. You only need one application form for both summer and academic year. So if you're planning on studying only summer or only academic year, you will use the same form. If you're planning on applying for both terms, you will also use the same form. We will have a checkbox where you just tick on which terms you would like to apply for. The application form have 3 different parts. The first one has 3 subparts. The form itself will touch on your personal information, your academic and demographic information, language information, your previous experience with the language or different languages, recommenders information, academic institutions, also statement of purpose. If you are studying abroad, then study abroad information, you should also put that in there. And you will need transcript. So if you are an ASU student and you want to use your ASU transcript, then you don't need to send in official transcript. I know it costs money, and I know you have to go through different channels to do it. But if you are out of ASU and you want to put in another institution's transcript, then it will need to be official transcript. You also need to submit FAFSA and FEN, and I want to emphasize on starting your FAFSA application as soon as possible, as soon as you got your text information, because that will take a while and we will need that information starting this year. So FAN stands for Financial Award Notification. That is something that you can find on your ASU financial aid notifications or your My ASU account. You will need 2 letters of recommendation with at least 1 letter of recommendation from an ASU instructor. So your professors, your lecturers, you should go and talk to them. You can have one from a different institute outside of ASU, different organization, that will be fine. You will also need a language evaluation. All of these forms will be provided. So you will have to print it out and send it to your recommenders, sorry. All materials must be submitted in PDF format. So if you want to take a picture and send it to us, we will reject it. Okay, so selection process and notification. We have committee members who represent 3 main major subregions of Asia. So those are East Asia, Southeast Asia, and South Asia. And so these committee members review the applications and provide scores from 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. So some of the criteria or some of the things that they look for are potential of high academic achievement, financial needs, that's where FAFSA comes from, and diverse perspective and areas of needs. That last part is actually indicated by the Department of Education and Department of State. So they actually have a list of languages and area study, which pretty much all Asia languages that we offer here are included in the areas of needs. So students typically receive a notification by the end of April, but for this year, you will, if only the summer applicants will receive their notification by April, because again, like I mentioned, academic year funding are contingent upon Department of Education funds availability. So for this cycle, for academic year, you will get your notification around June, July. That's what we anticipate. So here's some of the resources. I highly recommend you to go and visit our website. That's where you will find previous year forms, previous form and what kind of things you should expect. You will also see other information sessions that we have held previously. You will also be able to look at the current and last year's or previous year's fellows and what they do and what kind of things they study. Also, if you want to know about the fellowship itself, or if you're interested in other opportunities, you can directly apply through Department of Education. Here's a website for that. And I will put those links in the chat afterward. So if you have any questions, here's the time to ask now, and I will hand the mic or the floor to Professor Schober, who will provide some tips on how to construct a successful application.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Yes.
Okay, great. So welcome. I'm glad you're all interested in FLAS. Having had some experience over the past several years with the committee that looks at applications, I wanted to share some things with you that you should really pay attention to when you submit your application. So first of all, these are pretty significant fellowships. They're nationally competitive. They distinguish you on your CV or on your bio, whatever you use when you enter the job market. And accordingly, it requires a bit of work to apply for them. So I wanted to be sure that you understood that this application process is going to be involving several steps, and that you take good care addressing each one of them. Let me start with the letters of recommendation. I know John mentioned that you may submit one letter from a different organization, but in truth, I think it's fair to say that it's better if you have two letters of recommendation from someone who knows you as a student. So letters of recommendation from either church counselors or supervisors at work don't carry as much weight as a letter from one of your instructors. And so it's a good idea to think about whom you'll approach and give them a bit of time to write that letter. Give them, especially with the semester break coming up, give them a good amount of time and tell them what this fellowship is about and why you want to apply for it. In fact, if you have a draft of your personal statement ready when you ask that faculty member, you could also ask them to take a look at that. Maybe they'll give you some feedback, which will help your application, but it'll certainly familiarize them with what the fellowship is all about and why you're applying for it. So think of the whole thing as a process and just try and move it along a little bit at a time so that when the due date rolls around, you're all ready and your application is complete. So the statement of purpose, let me say a few things here. Don't focus so much on the past, but focus on the present and how that present will lead you to your future. Tell us what you're interested in and why you think the study of whatever language you propose to study will be helping you to attain those goals. If you want to go into business or academia, graduate school, some professional school, and you think that knowing Chinese, Japanese, Indonesian, Vietnamese will help you, then say that and help the evaluation committee understand why that will be useful for your future career. Our funders, the U.S. Department of Education, want us to give fellowships to students who will go into academia, some form of graduate school, people who go into professions, into business, into government, or into security services. So if one of those fits you, tell us about it, because that will match your application with the requirements for the award. So your personal statement is important, and make it about what you want to accomplish with this fellowship. That's the most important part. Beyond that, I have to say that in this upcoming round, we have been required to pay attention to financial needs. So that means that every applicant must submit either a FAN or a FAFSA statement along with the rest of your application. And it won't be that your personal information will be shared with the committee, but rather we assign a score from 1 to 5 to sort of determine levels of need. So you don't need to worry about personal information getting into hands you don't want them to be in, but rather it will be handled in the office and we'll assign a score. So letters of recommendation, the self-statement, and the FAFSA are really important elements of your application. Finally, once you are a fellow, you have to take a language course and an area studies course. And while the language course may be pretty intuitive for you to select, let me say a few words about the area studies portion of that. Particularly for undergraduates, I want to encourage you to take the opportunity of broadening your horizon. And so, for example, if you're taking, say, Korean, your area studies course needn't be just about Korea. It could be about Asia more broadly. It could be about a specific part of Asia that has nothing directly to do with Korea. It could, for example, be about Hinduism or Islam or the colonial history of Asia, or a course on sustainability that has significant area studies content. So we can help you in that selection, but I would encourage you to look widely and to use it as an opportunity for broadening your horizon and for learning more about Asia and learning more about the national language of your choice within a broader context, both historically or socially or politically, what have you. So with that, I see that there are a number of questions in the chat. So let me see if I see.
Angus, do you
Yes.
want to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. I know the application asks us about studying abroad, if our plans to study abroad, but a lot of the applications now for studying abroad, we don't find out acceptance until June or May, a lot later than when we submit this application. So do you know if it asks in general if we plan to study abroad, or does it want like a detailed answer of studying abroad?
So we understand that you might not have the information, but if you can provide maybe 3 schools that you're planning on applying for study abroad, that would be great. So because we wanted to make sure that they kind of fit and meet our requirements for doing a study abroad. So if you're thinking about doing study abroad in the summer versus study abroad in the academic year, that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Also, COVID is obviously a concern in that. And we've been encouraged in making our plans for the application as though this was regular times. In other words, it's hard to predict what will be the situation with COVID and travel permissions. So in order not to hold anyone back from making plans, go ahead and make plans. And then hopefully a FLAS fellowship can support those plans, but we won't know until the time what the travel restrictions are. So all we can do is plan as though there aren't any. If that makes sense.
Any other questions? You can put it in the chat box, so you can raise your hand. We can call your name.
I have a question about the officials transcript. So could you reiterate the what we need to do for like an ASU student with our official transcript? Do we send that in, I'm guessing?
So for ASU students, you don't need to send in an official transcript. You can send in an official, which you can get it for free and you can download it anytime, I'm assuming, because we can definitely go and check to see if your, transcript match what you have on your ASU, my ASU, because we can cross-check. But for other institutions, we don't have access to your academic record other than transcript. So we encourage you to send official, or we require you to send official transcript.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question, like going on with the studying abroad thing.
Mm-hmm.
When it asks if we're studying abroad over the summer, it means this coming summer, right?
Yes.
And then also, like, if we decide to apply to study abroad for next year of the spring, but we don't decide this until after the scholarship is done, would we still be able to get funding for it?
So if you're doing a study abroad for academic year, it doesn't matter if you are doing it or not. If you are selected for funding, whether or not you go, you will still get funding. Does it make sense?
I think so. So it doesn't really make a difference if you apply for studying abroad or if you apply for staying here?
No, and if you, but for academic year though, we require you to go through study abroad program through ASU. So you can't just, go off for a program that you found online. But for summer, we do have that flexibility, as in you don't have to go through ASU program. If you find a program that meets the requirement of 140 contact hour or so and 6-week duration, then we can look into the institution and say, okay, yes, you can go to this one.
But then, sorry, I feel like I'm asking a lot, but
no problem.
So there's only summer and year as a whole. There's no by semesters.
No.
Okay.
So we do have partial awards, and that's kind of restricted. So those are for students who are graduating in December. Or if
thank
you
you.
do not meet the eligibility or requirement. So for example, if you're not enrolled in a language course, if you drop out in the middle of the semester, then we might, take away your funding for the next semester.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so we have a questions. Will we still be eligible for summer and fall if we were graduating in winter 2022? So you will definitely be eligible for summer and for fall semester as well. And you just have to put that in your application so that we know. Sorry, another questions?
Oh, yes, I do have one question. Professor Schrober, I think, please tell me if I'm wrong, but earlier she talked about the statement of purpose and how, depending on our majors, and how we relate to our future careers, it can increase our chance to get the FLAS. If our major isn't really, I guess, connected to those, will it lower our, like, not significantly, but will it slightly lower our chances to be accepted into it?
Well, you have to explain to us why you want to study the language, right? And if it's not connected to your major, connected to something, excuse me, connected to, give us a plausible reason as to why it will help your future career to know this language. You
Okay,
might be a
thank you.
chemical engineer and want to study Japanese because you plan to move to Japan after graduation to practice your profession.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have a question regarding summer intensive program. So I'm not really sure if I understand this correctly. Do you want to know if it's okay if you don't earn any credit at ASU?
Sorry, so what I meant was that because I've looked at the language schools there, like I'm not sure. They say that they could send credits to the university, but I've heard from my professor, I think that that they won't be credited like towards my degree schoolwork. Like I want them to be, but I'm not sure if they could be.
Okay, so that's something that you'll have to work with your academic advisor. For funding purposes though, as long as you get credit for those courses, we are able to fund. For the summer, you do not need to transfer your credit to ASU. You could, and that's something that you can work out with your advisor. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So language testing. So yes, so you are definitely eligible for applying to second year or above if you're tested into it. So if you want to contact any of the language teachers, you can definitely tell them to see if they can do a language evaluation for you at ASU, or your previous language teacher can also do an evaluation for you. So yeah, you are definitely eligible if you are coming into second year. Okay, so you are already fluent in Indonesian, but you need to study Dutch for your research on Indonesian colony. Okay, so we can only cover Asian language studies. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Schober. Will Dutch be able to, will we be able to fund Dutch for the summer?
Well, we can always request permission from the Department of Education, but this particular case might be difficult for two reasons. Number one, ASU doesn't offer Dutch. And so secondly, we can only award fellowships for the languages in which we have approval. So we can't seek approval for something that we don't offer. That's a little bit of a catch-22 for us. There might be a way of working out a solution, but that's something that we would have to get in touch with the Department of Education once we have an application and ask for permission.
So intermediate level or above, does it mean enrolling in second year and higher level language courses? Yes. So when you are applying to FLAS fellowship, you should already have 1 year under your belt. So when you start your fellowship, you should have a year under your belt. So you will have to start out in the second year, 201 minimum next year or next semester, not spring semester, but in the fall semester.
So to respond to Atlas's question, yes, this is the time to apply for next year's second year. So if you are in first year right now, you're at the right time to apply for second year next year.
If you wanted to study abroad in the summer, do I apply for the summer or the general application? There's only one application you apply for, okay? So that is for both summer and academic year. And if you want to do just one or the other, that's fine. Just tick the box. Or if you want to apply for both at the same time, that's okay too. The reason that we combine the application is because, otherwise students will have to ask for recommendation letter twice and language evaluation form twice. So we just make it easier for everyone, just say use one application.
Quick question. So I am interested in studying abroad over the summer, but I don't know if I will yet.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I apply for summer and for the year, and I do get it for the summer, but then at the end decide I'm not gonna go abroad. Would that be a problem? Like, how would they handle that? Would they just take it away and keep giving funding for the year, or would they take the whole thing away?
We will still provide funding for the year. If you are selected for funding for the year, whether or not you go to study abroad or not, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you.
But I need to clarify, if you apply for funding for the summer to go abroad and for some reason can't or decide not to go abroad, then we won't fund that.
But the rest of the year will still be funded, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So what kind of language evaluation do we need to do for the application? You don't have to do anything. You just have to ask your language instructor to fill out the form for you. So the form, the previous forms, you can definitely look at it on our website. So the language evaluation, we look at your proficiency levels, your writing skill, your speaking skills, your reading skills, and it will be up to your language evaluator to fill that out. And they can say, yes, you're fluent in this, or you're not really good at writing or reading. And then they will submit it to us directly so that you wouldn't really know what they rate. So in other words, you don't have to do anything. You just have to send that form to your instructor of choice who would do an evaluation form for you.
And as with the letters of reference, please send this to the evaluator early. They'll get a lot of these requests very last minute. So the earlier you can contact them, the earlier you can set up your language evaluation, the happier your evaluator will be, and that's good for you. So with both rec letters and evaluations, please plan ahead.
Yep. For Atlas question, I think we sort of answered that already. This is a good time for you to apply because you are in 102. So anyone who are in 101 right now and planning to enroll in 102 next semester, because you will be coming in as 201 for both summer or academic year next cycle, you'll be eligible to apply. So apply this cycle if you're in 101 or 102 right now.
About the question regarding area studies and Korean. Yes, if you are taking, for example, Korean 202, you would then still have to take another course on Asia, broadly speaking. And it wouldn't be a language or literature course. It would be something in one of these other fields. And it might cover another part of Asia. It might not be about Korea.
So yeah, for area studies, we usually update different classes that offer here at ASU that are eligible for area study course online. That include, Japanese anime and pop culture. So, even if you're studying Chinese or Vietnamese, you can still take one of these courses that are offered here at ASU.
And that's on our website, right, John?
Yes. So it will be per semester. So each semester you'll have to take a language course and an area study course. So let's say if you are a global, study major or sustainability major, and you're wondering, okay, I don't really find this course that I'm taking, but it covers some Asia broadly, then you can definitely let us know and send us a syllabus and argue your case, as long as it has, at least 25% Asia as a topic in the course, then it will be counted toward an area studies. Any other questions?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So I am actually joining the Japanese program as my third undergrad degree. And I'm coming back from not having taken any Japanese courses since 2014. So I might have issues finding ASU professors for letters of recommendation. I could probably find at least one, but are there any alternatives? Like, for example, I actually was part of the JET program in 2015 to 2017. Would one of my Japanese coworkers be a good recommendation alternative to an ASU professor?
So I think there are two sessions that you have to address. One is recommendation letter and one is language evaluation, right? So if you're coming from another institution and you need a language evaluator, you can definitely send us an email and approach us. And maybe a language instructor can have a meeting, a short, Zoom meeting appointment to kind of test on your language proficiency to write you a language evaluation. Maybe Professor Schober or Hadberg can answer on recommendation letter.
Perfect, thank you.
My sense would be, it sounds like you have been previously at ASU. If there's anyone from that time that can still write a letter for you, then go for that. And if you need to default on another option, explain that in your self-statement.
Okay.
Put in a sentence that says, because of these circumstances, this was my choice.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Is this like a one-time scholarship or can you keep reapplying?
You can definitely reapply. And we actually have students who were FLAS fellows during their undergraduate years and then graduated and joined, graduate school or MA school. Actually, this Mary Kennedy, who you can see up here, she was the one who also got a graduate fellowship for her master program. So you can definitely keep applying and keep getting the funding if you are selected.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So do both language evaluations have to be for the same language? I'm not sure if I understand the questions. So are you applying for two different languages?
Maybe the issue is that the language evaluation is separate from the letter of recommendation?
So you previously studied Mandarin with a previous teacher. So yes, it will have to be the same language evaluator. But again, like I said, if you are out of touch with your language instructor from previous institution and you want a language evaluation through us, definitely send us an email at asia@asu.edu. And then we can try to arrange a language evaluator for you who can submit an evaluation form. So will we just reapply every academic year, every summer? Do we submit the same revised application, or does it carry over? It does not carry over, and each cycle is different, and your competitors are different too. So, you know, one year, if you don't get in, you might get in the next year, you never know. Or you might even input as an alternate. So if we have more funding available, then you will get a alternate or partial award letter for your spring semester. So definitely you need to reapply and try to change it up. If you didn't get, you know, with your application this year, maybe see what areas you can improve and then reapply again. And if you get in this year, don't get comfortable and assume that you're going to get it next year as well. Definitely, you know, see what areas you can improve on and reapply. Any other questions we can answer? If not, then thank you very much for coming. And thank you, Dr. Schober and Dr. Hatberg, for coming here and giving some tips and pointers. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at asia@asu.edu. Also check out our website at asianstudy.asu.edu. Thank you.